Okay, I wanted to do this quick YouTube live video on a subject that maybe is becoming a little more relevant to many people right now. In the midst of this COVID-19 coronavirus situation that we have, where many companies now are either closing their offices or encouraging their workforce to work from home. Now, that means a transition from being someone who works in an office to someone who is now a remote worker is about to take place with a lot of people. Now, you might think, woohoo, I'm working from home. Yay. How great will that be? Well, it can be great, but it can also lead to issues of lack of productivity and lots of distraction, all that. And because of that, it is a definite transition. It's not the wonderful, oh, goody, goody, goody. I'm working from home. I can do what I want to. Well, here's the problem. If you're still not productive and getting your work done, that's going to create issues. And even though your company is strongly encouraging you to work from home, you don't want to take advantage of that. In fact, if you would like to have that freedom more, you need to make sure this period of time that they've asked you to do it is as productive as it can be, so they see it as a viable option going forward. But right now, it's being mandated by some organizations and companies. And so here are 5 things that can really make this transition for you more successful and definitely more productive. So here we go. Here's the first thing you need to do if you're making the transition from going into an office to work to now being a remote worker if you want to be productive. Number 1, you want to designate a space. You want to go ahead and just say, this is my workspace. This is where I'm going to do work. That will help immensely. Having a dedicated place that says, this is where I'm going to work, is one of the key steps to being productive. It'll be tempting to just say, I'm going to take my laptop and I'm going to work wherever I want to, move around the house. I've got all this freedom. True. But you may find that that creates more distractions that you have to deal with as well. So that's the second thing. Not only do you need to designate a dedicated space for working, whether that's your office and your home, a guest bedroom or whatever, or just a kitchen table, just have a place that you do work. You also need to be proactive in eliminating as many distractions as you can. Trust me when I tell you, working from home has a different set of distractions than going into an office. You're going to deal with your home phone ringing. You may be dealing with delivery people. You may be dealing with pets. And you might be dealing with children. So these are other distractions that you don't have when you leave home and go to the office. When you're working from home, you now have to address these. So be proactive and do what you can to eliminate as many of these distractions as you possibly can. One of these might be to not make your designated workspace in your main living area in front of your big screen TV. Just saying, that might be a challenge for you to not want to turn on the TV and stream some movies or something on Netflix, Hulu, or whatever it is that you do. So pick your space well and be proactive in eliminating as many distractions as you can. Anticipate them and allow for them. Okay. Here's the third thing you want to do. You want to stay connected with your team. One of the things that can happen when you work remotely is you can begin to feel a bit isolated and a bit disconnected from what's really going on within the organization. You're used to being in the office. You can walk next door. You see people in the break room. You see people at the water cooler getting coffee. That's not going to be happening when you work remotely. So you want to keep your lines of communication open. Whatever technology your company uses to communicate, whether it's by email, instant messaging, apps that allow you to connect, or video conferencing calls and so forth, whatever those technologies are, be sure to utilize them because it will help you feel more connected to what's happening, and that's a key to being productive. Now, while you might welcome the disconnect for a little bit, as time goes on, you can really begin to feel isolated and out of the loop and hard to know if you are contributing and being productive. And that's part of what we're talking about here today. These are things to help us be more productive. So keep the lines of communication open, stay connected with your team. That was number 3. Here's number 4. When you're using your home Wi-Fi, or you decide I'm going to go to the coffee shop, woohoo, I'm going to go spend $6 on a coffee, and I'm going to work remotely because I can't. Yeah, I get it. But here's the thing: you need to understand that public Wi-Fi is risky. It's hazardous, especially if you are working on things related to your company, your organization, you're transmitting things through email and so on. You need to be sure that you're following your company's best practices and policies for using those types of methodologies when you're transmitting things related to work. That's a data privacy issue. That's a confidentiality issue. There's a lot of issues that come into play. Okay, so be sure. And you say, "Well, Bill, I'm not sure I know how to do that." Well, that's okay. Contact your help desk. They can tell you what best practices to follow and what they want you to do. This is true at home as well. It's easy to take for granted the security measures that we don't even think about when we're in an office because somebody's handling all that. Now that we're remote workers, it needs to come to the front of our mind. Let's be sure we understand, know, and practice the policies that the company would set forth for us and best practices for security. That's as much to do with the company's information as your information. So make sure you do that. That's number 4. Here's number 5. This one might surprise you. Don't overwork. I know. Some of you are thinking, is that possible? Do people do that when they work? Do they overwork when they work remotely? Well, yes. Yes, they do. And one of the reasons that they do is they don't do a good job of setting a dedicated time they're going to work. Not only do you need to set a designated space, that's the first thing we told you, you need designated times. You need good work boundaries, a start time, a break time, and an end time. If you don't do that, the tendency is that you'll push things out. They'll get shoved to the afternoon, this, that, and the other with distractions, and you'll wind up working evenings. You'll wind up working on the weekends. You'll start crowding out family time and other things because you didn't structure your time. So I highly recommend, if you're used to working from 8 to 5 when you go in the office, block that time off now that you're working remotely. Do those things, set some boundaries, have a designated time that you start work and a designated time that you stop. That way you don't overwork and you're going to be more productive doing that. These are unparalleled days. I'm not sure we've seen these things, and we have choices to make as to whether we can be productive or not. And some of these things can be very helpful. These 5 things. Some of you who may watch this have been remote workers maybe for a long time. Well, your input would be very beneficial. So leave your tips, things that you think would be helpful for being productive as a remote worker. Leave those in the comments below. I'm sure everyone who reads them will benefit from them. I just thought we've got a lot of people making a transition as a result of a disruption caused by COVID-19 and the coronavirus. Office people being asked to become remote workers. That's a transition. These 5 things I just shared with you, I believe, can help you make that transition more successful and definitely make it more productive.